So at this point, I have my WLC.pem, which is the certificates that I'm going to use for the controller. So I will be downloading this certificate to the controller, and this controller will have in the certificate actually a pair of public and private keys. The public key is signed by the certification authority, so the controller is going to be able to send this key out to clients. And of course, this key is being signed by the CA, so the client is going to be able to trust this key. The next thing is also to download on the controller the certification authority signature, that is to say the certification authority key, so that the controller can trust keys sent by the clients, and of course trust itself the signature from the CA. So just like on the ACS, we need both parts, the controller certificate and the certification authority key on the client. And again, we're going to go through another machine to do this on behalf of the controller, because from the controller you cannot get to the CA with a web browser and download the key. That just doesn't work. Okay, so to do that, we just basically go to the CA from this machine. That's going to be our mean of going to the CA. And you see I'm using here Firefox, and I'm going to show why in a second. So I go to my CA using admin account, and if I download the CA certificate, it's exactly the same process as before. I can say install certificate, and it says, it's already installed because in the previous videos I did that. So it's there, but I just want to show you that you can do it here. But the key part now is that now that this machine has the certificate, I'm going to go to options, and if I go to view certificates, which is in the advanced encryption section of Firefox, I can say view certificates. And if I go to authorities and look for October, which is my CA name, of course I have it, and the key here is that I can export it. And guess what? The good thing is that you can export it with a PEM format already from Firefox, which is not something you can do from Windows Explorer. So hopefully you have a Windows Firefox somewhere. If you don't, from Explorer you can save it with the Windows format, and again use the Cisco documentation I gave you the URL for, and transfer it from the the Windows format into the PEM format. So here I can do it right from scratch here, and as you can see it's already there because I did that already. Okay, so at this point in my bin folder I have my certificate for my controller, which is called mywlc.pem. I'm copying it here, and I also have my october.crt, which is my PEM format for my certificate. So I put both certificates in the same location, and then it's just a matter of going to your controller, going to commands, and download from the command file first the controller certificate itself. So that's vendor device certificate, and then we'll do it for the certification authority. So remember the password I used, test123. This is my TFTP server URL, and my controller name is actually going to be my cert, my WLC, sorry, WLC.pem. I need to start here a TFTP server, set the right IP address, 158 here, and initiate the download. Okay, after a few seconds, the certificate should start, be downloaded, and you should be successful. You need to reboot your controller to validate this certificate. So you reboot it first, save and reboot, of course. And as soon as the controller reboots, you do the same for the CA, which is in the same folder. So same process, and it's called october.crt, and of course it's a CA certificate file. Download, here we go. Save and reboot, and your controller will be ready to do local EAP with the certificates. If anything goes wrong in these downloads, it's because the format is not the right format. So go back to the OpenSSL commands and everything we checked before together and verify where you went wrong, because if the format is right, it should work. Now, if you want to use this nice certificate system, we need to configure a controller for a local EAP. So the first thing is to disable the external radio server, because as you know, local EAP is only working when the external server is not responding or when there is no external server. So I disable my external radios. Then I'm going to create a local EAP profile. Let's create a new profile called EAPs. Apply. And this one is going to allow EAP-TLS, and why not PEEP. And as it's used for EAP-TLS, I need to verify that I have a local certificate. So I say this is required. And by the way, the client will need to send a certificate as well. And the certificate is going to be the vendor certificate, that is to say the new certificate I downloaded to the controller and not the default Cisco certificates. I can check the client certificate here against the authority if I want to. I can check the date, but I found that very often this was creating problems, so unless you really have to do it, I would disable that feature. Say apply, and my profile is ready. So I can go back to my TLS profile, and in the security tab in AAA server, say that I'm going to use the local EAP authentication with the EAPs profile. Okay, my controller is ready now, so the next step is to verify if this is working on the client. So I go back to my client, properties, I'm going to get my TLS profile, which is exactly the same as before, right? If I go to properties, it's still the same authentication mechanism, and the client just does not realize that the authentication is occurring on the controller instead on the external radio server, so the client configuration is exactly the same. So please refer to the previous video if you want to know how to configure that part. So okay, and if I say view wireless networks, I'm going to ask to connect to the TLS profile. And of course, it works exactly the same way. Now, if I want to use PEEP instead of TLS, the process is the same on the controller, except that I need to add a user. So I go back to my controller, security, local net user. I have a few. I'm going to create a new one. I call it Cisco. It's going to be connecting through the PEEP WLAN, apply. So that's my user. I also need to set my WLAN to use the local EAP profile, the PEEP security EAP server. I'm using the local EAP profile. Click apply, and now if I ask to connect to the PEEP profile, I'm connected. Alright, I hope these videos were useful for you. I would like to thank you for watching.